Welcome to the podcast. Today, the topic is going to be how to become a straight A student.
This is Optimized Podcast. Basically, me and Joowan are here. We're the hosts of the Optimized Media Podcast, where we talk about things like leadership, entrepreneurship, productivity, and self-improvement. Basically, we're coming from our own club at our school that teaches all these principles as just young guys, young dudes, and girls, if they want to get onto self-improvement, productivity, and leadership.
Just for the credentials of today's video, I have a 4.46 GPA last time I checked. Next year, I'm planning to take around 6 college-level courses, which is a pretty difficult schedule to maintain. And last year, I was able to be productive to the point of time where I finished all my work before around 6 or before dinner time.
Yeah,
And Cam,
yeah, me too. Me too. I basically the same as my boy Joowan here. We're just productive beasts. So, um,
Cam's a robot.
yeah, we both are just like teaching productivity. We have our own YouTube channels where we talk about productivity. So you can trust us when it comes to productivity. Uh, yeah, that's basically what. Like, you just gotta trust us, man. This is stuff that we've learned from books and neuroscientists and experts, and of course our own experience.
Plus, Cam is pretty massive. He got some he got BC six packs under there. He's a pretty hot guy. So the
All right,
first
all right. Let's
question
start.
that comes into how to become a straight A student is around your studying time. Because being a student, right, involves a lot of time by yourself. A lot of time by yourself studying, a lot of time by yourself doing the work. So how should you study?
Well, the way that I study, it really comes down to just doing the same thing every single day. Right. And this is going to be obvious, like, 'cause everyone's going to tell you, oh, do the same thing every day, but no one actually does it. Right. The way that I do this is I have a timetable. So I'll go home, and as soon as I get home, like, boom, I expect that I got a shower. So, I mean, I expect that I go to the gym. So, boom, everyone else, they get home. Oh, let me watch YouTube. Let me do this. Blah, 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 blah. No, I'm just 3 o'clock, boom, go to the gym. 4 o'clock, boom, go home. 5 o'clock, boom, get studying. You know what I mean? And if you are disciplined with this type of study ritual, instantly you will see an improvement in your studying. And I know that you do this as well, Juwan. You said you ritualize your work.
Yeah, so literally the same thing as Cam, right? Cam, I ritualize my work. And I know you and a lot of people have read the book about deep work. Basically, I went back to the principles of that book. And one of the main principles was about ritualizing, right? So I have
Mm.
just 3 rules to point out here. The first rule is deciding where you will work and for how long. You know, in back in elementary, we had a timetable, like you said, we had a daily schedule. You know, the teachers would give us a schedule like 7 or like 8 a.m. We would get arrive to school, and then maybe like 9 a.m. we would have English, 10 a.m. math, and then like PE. We would know exactly where and when things should come up. So if we ritualize the same thing, decide where you work at, like maybe it's your library, maybe it's your room, maybe it's somewhere else, and deciding how long you'll do this for. Maybe it's for 2 hours, 3 to 5 p.m., but you go to the gym, so maybe it's after that, like 4:30 to 6:30. Deciding on this, Cal Newport says, the author of the book Deep Work, is crucial. And the second one is setting rules for your work. For example, putting your phone on D&D. That is a pretty important part. Literally focus, I think of it, is limiting your distractions. And another part is limiting the website you go to. For me, I found that sometimes when I was using YouTube, even for like learning something or for education, sometimes I just start web surfing. Sometimes I just see like Hamza's new video popped up. Oh, that should be productive. I just click on that. Then I just web surf. So you have to be conscious of yourself and set rules of yourself. And the third one is something similar. It's supplementation. Are you eating the right stuff? Do you have your hydration straight? Do you have everything else straight? Are you organized? Do you make your bed every day? Is your room clean? These small things, like I know you already make your bed. I know you organize your room. These small things, right? can lead up to big habits.
Yeah, I
And do
completely
this
agree.
every day, right? Do this every day. That is the point of ritualizing.
Wow. Wow. For me, the whole start of my self-improvement journey wasn't actually like, oh, I started watching Homs or whatever. It was the fact that my mom made she just put up laundry. Like she just cleaned my room for me, and I felt so bad that that it gotten to the point that she cleaned my room for me that I decided to keep cleaning my room. And then what
Yeah,
happened was I got into the habit of cleaning my room, and then I got like a little bit of discipline and like organization, so then I got into the habit of like organizing myself a little more, going to the gym. Like it all started just because I started to like actually learn to organize and get focus, discipline, whatever. So it is a big thing, like you said, to just start actually organizing your life around you. And that brings me to like another big point. So the biggest thing that I think of when it comes to being a productive person, it's like you can hear all of the cold showers and you can hear all of the focus tips you want, but I think it comes down to just this simple thing. Like imagine you had like a dude, right? A dude, and he's an engineer, and he lives off in the middle of Czechoslovakia or something, and he lives with his mom. Every time he studies, he gets B's, he gets C's, and like every time he gets an A, his mom says, "Oh, you're gonna be such a good engineer." So, but he says to his mom, like, "Mom, I don't want to be an engineer. I want to be a sailor." So the dude, he says, "I'm a sailor," and you're gonna see what happens when he becomes a sailor. He becomes a sailor, and then as he's sailor, three things happen, right? You're gonna see where I'm going with this. Let's say the captain says to him, "You're the janitor now." So he's like, "Oh shoot, what does the janitor do?" He goes and starts mopping. The the captain says to him, "You're the lookout now." So he's like, "Oh, I'm not the janitor anymore. I'm the lookout." What does a lookout do? So he goes and starts being a lookout. And then the captain says to him, "Oh, you're not a lookout anymore. You're the captain." So he's like, "Shit, I'm the captain. What do I do as the captain?" So then as captain he starts giving orders like, "Mike, you load the cannon, whatever." And then all of a sudden, let's say like a giant ship comes in, boom, boom, boom. He's got to be the captain. They're getting destroyed. Like Mike's down. He's dead. They turn around. He heads home because he makes an executive order. He goes back to his mom, and then, now he's no longer captain. He says to his mom, "I don't want to be a sailor. I want to be a student." And then he starts studying again. It's so important that what you think you are affects what you do. Like that guy, he was a sailor. He was a student. He was a janitor. He was a lookout. He was a captain. He was five different people in that moment. Now imagine if you said to yourself, "I'm an all A student." What happens? You start acting like an all A student.
is that similar to the idea of like law of attraction, where you constantly it's like affirmation? Is this similar to affirmation, or how would it differ from affirmation?
Um, I would say that the difference, well, for affirmations, right? You look in the mirror and you say to yourself, "I'm going to get a 1560 SAT." And what happens there is a lot of people think like, "Oh, manifestation, law of attraction, whatever." For me, I just think I kind of deny that stuff. I'm just like, you think that you're going to get a 1560 SAT. You want to be consistent with your thoughts because we like to have consistency in our mind, and we start acting like that. That's just simply what happens. You start acting like the way that you think. So if I start thinking that I'm an all A student, I'm an all A student. But a lot of guys, they start thinking they're an all A student and then they have no proof for that. That's what happens. And the way to get rid of this is like look at your grades, right? Maybe maybe you want to be an all A student. Let's say someone's watching this wants to be an all A student. Then they look at, okay, I have a B's and I have C's and I have a 3.5 GPA. Cool. Lie to yourself. Just lie to yourself, bro, because if you just start thinking that you're an all A student and you go telling, and this is something that I like to think. If you tell other people that you're an all A student and you don't start acting like one, then they're going to kick you out cuz nobody likes a liar. So then you got to start acting like an all A student. So it's kind of like a one step back, two steps forward thing. You be a liar, but you're also actually starting to become that person.
So going back to how you should work, you know,
Yeah.
hypothetically, if you just sit down and do the work, you should be good, right? If you literally have 100% productivity, 100% focus, literally no distractions, you should hypothetically be able to get down work, knock down it super easily. But the reality is not like that.
Yeah.
So the question that I want to ask you is, how should you focus during these times of study? And what are some protocols? What are some rules? What are some routines that you follow that you could share?
Okay. Well, recently I've been trying to deepen my work, right? So I listened to this guy named Hamza, and you know him. He came with this flow state guide, so I got really into this. I'm like, wow, flow state. What is this? And like deep work, right? We both read deep work. We both know deep work, and maybe some people listening to this know deep work, but I realized that flow state is the higher level to deep work. It's like when you do something and time just seems to stop. Like like someone will come in and they'll look at you and they'll distract you and you look at how much time has just gone by and you're like time just runs differently in this world than that guy's world because you're just in such a flow state. Maybe you've had that happen to you before. Like on a usually happens for most people in like a practice test exam or like the SAT, right? You get into that flow state. Boom. So the way that I've started to stay focused is to really try to hone in on this flow state. And there are three things that you need to get on this flow state. Okay? Three factors that if you want to get into a flow state are absolutely necessary. Okay, so let's think of it like this. Let's say you have a ballerina and she's been training all her life for the world championships. She's 23 now, and all she can think about, she has like this big thing on her wall that says world championships, and it's been ever since she could walk. Training every single day for this. She gets 18, 19, 21, 22. Now she's on the world championship stage. She gets into a flow state and she wins. What happened there was the reason she got into a flow state was because one, she'd been doing this for so long. She had intrinsic motivation because she actually wanted to do this. So that's the first factor that you need. The second factor is you need a clear mission. She wanted to win the world championships of ballet, and she's been doing that for a very long time. And then the third is I didn't actually go into it very much, but that was stakes. You need stakes to get into a flow state. So let's say I'm running across America and I need to get into a flow state. The stakes there would be that I'm literally going to die if I don't do this because you need to be like perfectly healthy to run across America. So the way that I've been getting good at honing in my work is just trying to use those three factors. And I'm implementing those. But I know that there are some things to like warm up for your work. And I want to ask you about those because um I know you've been applying those for a while, Joowan.
Yes. So I like to talk about some of the things that I do, the protocols that I follow, the rules that I follow. The first one is just a general principle that you should keep in mind. And like literally so many people have heard of this. And it's called the 20-80 principle, 80-20 principle, the Pareto's principle. And this is all about focusing on the widely important goals, right? Think of it like this. You have a business and you have 100 customers. Now, 20 of your customers result in 80% of your output. Maybe that's your profit. If you get $1,000 of profit, the 20% of your customers, the 20 customers are going to give you $800. But the other 20%, the other 80% is only going to give you 20% of your output.
So are you saying
A
that
little
some people pay more than the other people and that's why?
Yeah, this literally applies to any aspect, but specifically in business, it applies that yes, there are the top tier customers that pay you most amount of the profit, or that gives you most amount of this and that can be applied to everyday life, and including schoolwork. So what you can do, Cam, is focusing on the 20%, the small percentage of the things, maybe the concepts, maybe the units that are going to give you 80% of your output. It may sound confusing, but think of it like this, okay? Maybe you are in a biology class and you have the option of study. Now, for straight A students, they know how to study the proper way and they study in a way that minimizes their time, right? So they're not going to whip up a textbook and read every single page, but instead they're going to do something smart. Work smarter, not harder, right? They're going to pull up their notebook. They're going to plan specifically how they could maximize their output. And maybe they're going to do it in a way such that they could grasp the major ideas that are key, to the course. Instead of reading every single chapter of the textbook, which is, if you hypothetically do that, you're going to get like over 90%, over 95%. But straight A students don't do that, right? They minimize their time. And another thing that goes along with this, which is my second point, is the Parkinson's law. Cam, do you ever remember a time, you had like a really tight deadline? Maybe you had a project due in about 2 or 1 day, or maybe even like a couple hours. And somehow you get the work done in that deadline.
Yeah,
Somehow you
bro.
just
That
zoned
happens
in,
to me with
right?
essays all the time.
Right? Somehow you just get zoned in. Like you say, you enter the
Yeah.
flow state, you enter the deep work state, and somehow you just get it done. And that rule is called the Parkinson's law.
So how can I
It's
apply the Parkinson's law every day?
an actionable step. Let me first explain the rule first, right? The whole
Okay.
principle of this rule is that work expands to fill the time available. If you set
Hmm.
a strict deadline, a strict time limit, then you're going to do the work somehow. You're going to need to focus. And because, like you mentioned, the stakes are high, right? So you are going to focus. Sorry for that. So, how you can apply this to your life and make it into an actionable routine is literally as simple as this. Let's say you read 20 pages of a textbook. Maybe it's like an SAT textbook or whatever in 60 minutes, in an hour. The next time you go and do this, still have the same time limit or make it even lower, but have more of your work. So 25 pages in 60 minutes. That's still in the comfort level, but it's on the edge. Now you start getting a little uncomfortable. Now the stakes are pretty high. Now you start gaining your focus because you have a reason to do so.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and that is
Yeah,
why, and that is what
I know a
literally.
lot of guys that
Mhm.
that just kind of go to do their work like, "Oh, I'm gonna study tonight for chem." And then they end up staying up till 1 a.m. Would you say that that's a really
Right,
good idea for them to
right.
implement if they want to actually get some sleep?
So the whole point is to not pull all-nighters, to minimize your time. And for me to see them do that, like even if they have hard courses, I think that they could still find ways to minimize their time with still maintaining A's. And they could do that by finding smart study techniques like we just mentioned, like limiting your time and focus. Another thing I want to share is the productivity formula. And you probably heard of this, Cam, right? What you produce equals to your focus multiplied by the time you spent on the task. So, like you mentioned, the kid staying up till 1 a.m., right? I'm willing to bet that he won't have a high level of focus, but instead he's putting more time on the work. He's probably getting distracted on his phone, getting Snapchat notifications, Instagram notifications. I see this literally everywhere, and it's a problem.
Wow. Yeah. So he had he had less
Yeah,
focus but more time just to get the same output.
right,
Dang. I
right.
actually haven't heard that formula before, but I do want to add something to that formula because this is like with now ChatGPT launching, I think that this is something that we should add. It should be output equals focus times time put in times leverage. Because let's say you had two guys, right? One of them makes 10,000 a month, one of them makes $1,000 a month, but they both spend 10 hours on their work per week, and they both have the same amount of focus. So then what's the difference, right? This guy has 10 times more leverage than this guy. So what leverage is It's the difference between the input and the output. This guy just has 10 times bigger of the input. No. Yeah, you know what I mean. So let's say you have ChatGPT right now. All of a sudden, I can spend 10 minutes on an essay rather than 10 hours because I just can put it in the prompt. You know what I mean? So, in the future, that we're going to see a lot of things will come down to leverage. And I believe that if you can really figure out these leverage points in your, especially homework, like maybe leverage is just cheating off the guy in front of you. I'm not saying you should do that because I hate cheaters and it builds you bad habits, but I am saying that that's a leverage point. ChatGPT is going to be a leverage point. Um, and probably another leverage point would be like, you can even think of it as higher focus. And I know there's leverage points like increasing your focus through cold showers or better sleep or meditation or all of these other habits. But the more leverage that you have, the more output you're going to get out relative to the amount of input that you put in.
Talking about leverage, I talked about, the specific things and protocols that I follow. And is there any way that you plan and schedule for your day, like I just mentioned? Any protocols that you follow for your own focus? If so, how do you do it?
Yeah.
How do you plan for your day?
Okay. So last semester, every day I got home and I would go to the gym, right? And I purposely did this because let's think about school, right? Let's say you think about school and you have the gym. School drains you down, right? I get home from school, blah, I'm sad, I'm drained. Oh, I just did 10 hours of work. I'm so blah. A lot of people, they'll say, "Oh, I'm drained. Let me go TikTok, Instagram, Netflix." And then they're like, "Oh, that's charging me back up." A lot of times when we think about these chargers and these drainers to increase our energy, the charger is actually a drainer if it's something like Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok. It's just hiding itself. It's disguising itself as a malicious drain as a charger, but it's actually draining you. So a real charger would be something that I actually like to do and that actually increases my energy, like the gym, for example. So that's probably my biggest charger of the day. So the first thing that I do is I line up my chargers and my drainers so that I can actually be ready to go when I want to do something like another drainer, like homework later in the day. So I go into the school, I have a charger, like the gym, and then my next thing will be a drainer because I'm charged up. And that's my schoolwork. But another thing is I have like, I call these like, I guess I'm going to start calling them, I haven't even labeled these yet, but maybe it's something like superchargers. And a supercharger would be something that instantly spikes your adrenaline, instantly spikes your dopamine so you can get into a flow state, like deep work. So you can do that drainer. And a supercharger is what I do is like a cold shower. Right? I go home, cold shower because it spikes your adrenaline, gets you into that flow state. Or I meditate. I've been trying to meditate just before my deep work sessions because it gets you into that delta brain waves that is in that flow state. So I supercharge myself and then I do something that's draining like homework. And then during my homework, um, I try to get to that flow state. And something that I've been thinking about, right, is how to set up for the flow state. Because like if you have Usain Bolt, right, any elite athlete, they warm up, right? So they can perform their best. You wouldn't just like maybe sometimes this has happened or someone watching this has happened to them. They go to do a work session and then it's tough and it's hard and they say I want to quit and they quit. It's probably because you didn't warm up. Every single elite athlete warms up. The best scholars don't even do this. And I believe that if all of us were to warm up for our work, it would be just like we were elite athletes. So I've started warming up for my work to make it easier to do the work and make me less likely to quit and actually more focused. And the way that I did this is through an acronym called PISSing. So I started pissing on my work. Okay. So there's
Leg-
3 S's in piss. And I love to piss on my work now because it gets me so hyped up. Okay. So the first P, so the P stands for prepare for your work beforehand. Okay. So what you're going to do, you're going to get something like a to-do list or like maybe you have a notebook, a sheet, and you're going to write down exactly what you're going to do. I've started doing this right before even before my day starts because it's after it's a day that I don't have school, like it's summer right now. So I say before the day even starts, the night before, I plan what I'm going to do. I prepare what I'm going to do. Write it down in order, exactly what I'm going to do. And then the first S stands for setup. So what I do there is I set up my desk, right? My desk right now has nothing on it except for this protein bar that I just ate and this water bottle, right? And of course, just my setup because I want to be set up so that I'm perfectly don't have any distractions for my work and I don't have any distractions when I'm trying to get into my work when it eventually starts. And then the third S stands for stand up straight, right? Because the optimal the optimal anything for getting focused is to have a good healthy body and good healthy blood circulation and oxygen flow and all that stuff. And now you're standing up, so I guess you got to do it. But yeah, it gets your nose straight up. It gets you feeling good. It gets your chest out, so you feel like a confident beast. Probably boosts your testosterone a little bit. And then we move on to the third S, which is stare into the screen. And what this means is that you literally become like a psychopathic maniac staring into my eyes or Joowan's eyes or just the singular word that you're about to do. Because our mental focus has been proven to become more focused correlation with our visual focus. So those four steps get you into a flow state like crazy. And I plan to do that. Haven't actually applied this yet during my schoolwork because this is just something that I've learned over the summer. But I will be doing that. I will go straight home, get a supercharger. I will write down what I'm going to do, set up, make sure that I'm feeling good, stand up straight, stare into my word, and start. And then I'll be in the flow state for the next hour.
Talking about your last S, where you stare at something and then it focuses. I actually listened to one of Andrew Huberman's podcasts, and he does the same thing. Right? I don't know if you got it from him, but
Yeah.
he talked about your visual coordination, how it improves your focus. So what he
Hmm.
does is before his deep work, he stares at a solid object or like a single point for a couple of seconds or a couple minutes, and he says that improves your focus. So literally, me hearing that, I was in school before each class, trying to find something to literally stare at it for seconds. I probably looked like an idiot there, but that's a funny story, and that is, I believe, that is science proven.
Wow. Were
Mhm.
you able to use anything else in class that could help you with your focus?
We're talking about that. I think one thing that stood out that other people didn't do was literally putting my phone D and not having it in my pocket and literally putting it in the back pocket of my backpack. So the whole time during the school, besides sometime during lunch, I would never use my phone. And talking about this, it's sort of like a media fast, right? You're staying off from your phone, you're staying off from social media, you're staying off from these distractions, Cam. And recently I've been doing that too. I know it's been summer and everything, free time's been popping up, but still, I include these things called phone breaks. And another thing that's came from the book from Deep Work. That's why I'd say such a gem book. The whole point is to take breaks from focus, not take breaks from distractions. Take a moment to think about that, right? If you take breaks from distractions, then that means your breaks are your focus times. And the vast majority of the time are distractions. But instead, if
That's
you
a
take,
contradiction in itself, bro, because how are you having a break when you're in focus mode? You know what I mean? Like that doesn't make sense.
what do you mean by that?
Like if I think of my break as my focus time, then I'm in break mode, but I'm also in focus mode.
Right?
That
Right?
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so instead we're using take breaks from focus, like taking a walk, going to the gym, like you said, recharging them. But people do what people are doing in school and outside of school. They take breaks from focus. Wait, were they? Okay, I'm getting it mixed up. They take breaks from distraction, which are their periods of study, periods of focus. And I made it kind of complicated here, but my point is that they have so many distractions in their life, right? And sometimes me too. Like we are not excluded from these people.
Yeah.
But incorporating not using my phone too much and staying away from social media. Like I recently deleted Instagram because I had no reason except for just scrolling and scrolling, which I don't even typically do regardless. I find my focus to skyrocket, right? I mean, another story is seventh grade me will be literally on my phone every day. I remember during quarantine, my screen time would be 14 hours. I wouldn't even sleep 14 hours, though.
Oh,
If
damn.
I spent 14 hours on my phone, how much time would I spend on studying, on focus, on deep work, in flow states? And now it's gone down much. Try to keep it below 2 hours, 1.5 hours, and been doing great.
Yeah, that's about where mine is at as well right now. But really, it's just like it's either it's not even on like random stuff. It's either on like YouTube Studio or
Right.
Discord or camera app. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
literally,
I'm actually very happy with
I probably use iMessages, Discord for just communicating with you. Like, I literally just talk to Cam
that. Really?
and freaking Google and YouTube. But YouTube, I use another like extension to block out all the feed. I don't know if you
Oh,
use
me
that too.
too.
Yeah, it's called Newsfeed Eradicator, I think. I don't know.
I have like 7 extensions right now. I can say
Yeah, dude, I do have a lot.
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, share matter of fact, share some extensions that are pretty key.
Okay, okay.
Let me
So
pull
I
mine.
have a bunch of YouTube extensions because I go on YouTube a good amount because obviously I'm a YouTuber and Joowan's a YouTuber, so this is good if you have a problem with going on YouTube. You could probably find the exact same things with Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat if you're trying to remove those from your life. But this will very much help you, okay? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 maybe. And I got these all from a video of Hamza's called This Will Change Your Life in 12 Minutes. I just downloaded them all. It probably didn't change my life, but it did very much help my focus. So just look up literally distraction free tube, hide latest video performance, hide video YouTube thumbnails, hide YouTube viewers, and like just go to the video called This Will Change Your Life in 12 Minutes by Hamza Ahmed, and you will find all of the extensions that he uses as a YouTuber to just get himself distraction free. And I will tell you, bro, this brings me to another point that I want to talk about. Okay, so a lot of guys think of, like you were saying, they have specific study time, productive time, and then they have break time. Cool. And this is where most people stay average because when you really think of productivity, you don't think of it as productivity. You think of it as specific traits. And traits comes down to different little micro skills. Okay? So when we look at productivity, the trait, let's say I am a productive person. I have the traits and skills of discipline and focus, right? And all of those go down into even further things like doing work when I don't feel like it, hitting my work sessions on time, finishing my work, being able to get into a flow state. All of those are essences of productivity. So let's say you had like a 5K runner. He's running for an hour before he does his homework. You wouldn't say to him, oh, he's not productive because he's running. No, he actually is being productive because he's leveling up the skills of discipline and focus during his run. And then I bet that every single day he goes back to his work and he feels more productive because he's just leveled up those skills outside of his work. So now we can look at the whole grand scheme of our lives and think to ourselves, am I just not a productive person because I don't have the skills of discipline and focus? Because productivity is a grand scheme thing. You got to zoom out to see what your entire life is. And this is why I say that you must make a timetable. Because even though you don't have like you only have 1 hour of homework a day per se, then fine, be productive for 1 hour. But if your whole day is productive, then you will just become a productive person and it will translate toward your work. You know what I mean? Do you see that in your life, Juwan?
Yeah, another way I think of that, Cam. Um, taking a step back and seeing how productive and consciously measuring your productivity, I feel like that is really important too. Like after my deep work sessions, I have this page on Notion. It's like a note taking app. I use that to track my focus, and I write down the things that I did before and after the deep work. So after every single time, I'll try to increase my level of focus. Like first, I tell my, oh, this deep work session was well 8 out of 10 focus. What did I do before? Did I do my usual morning routine? Did I eat the right stuff? Or did I wake up at the same time? Did I get enough sleep? And I feel like measuring these are important. And another thing is, I feel like the direction you're going is really important too. People talk about like productivity, and they tend to get lost in like what direction you're going. I don't really know how to explain it in the best sense, but sometimes we just get lost in doing so much work that we don't know which direction we're going. Like if I'm my final end goal is trying to become a YouTuber, but I get caught up in my studies and my works and work. I'm trying to focus on these other things to be productive that I lose sight of where I'm going to. Can
Yeah.
you relate to this,
My
Cam?
my track coach, he always starts out our year with a story. So, and this is so that we can stay focused. And just think about this, right? There's a landscaper and he's on a piece of a hill. And there on the hill, he has some two new like this new thing is being built. It's like bricky. There's guys laying bricks over there. So then the landscaper, he's wondering what's going on. So he decides to go ask the first bricklayer, who looks kind of not really enthusiastic, a little bit like bad posture, like just slapping that brick on, whatever. He goes over to him and he asks to himself, yes, the guy, what are you guys doing? And the bricklayer says, oh, I'm laying bricks. Landscaper moves on. He goes to the second guy. He says to the second guy, who seems a little bit more enthusiastic, says to him, hey, what are you guys doing? Or what are you doing? And the second bricklayer says, I'm building a cathedral. So if you think to yourself the grand scheme of the picture, then you'll really be able to see what direction you're going. Because I bet that the first bricklayer was so caught up in like getting that micro little like perfect whatever cement thing they put on those bricks and like lining it up and fixing it. A lot of the times it doesn't matter because you're just building the cathedral. And the second guy, every brick he puts on, he steps back and he looks at the giant thing he's creating. And he always has this sense of purpose and direction for where he's going. So yeah, sometimes you get too zoomed in on those and you lose direction. So I like to just think of what cathedral am I building?
Yeah, so like you said, it's pretty important to have the bigger picture and being conscious of your productivity, of what you do, right? But another part that I want to mention is that it's obvious for these straight A students to be focused, but how can you balance school life with social life? Because obviously, you're going to need at least some type of social life. What would you say about that, Cam?
I want to ask you, do you need some aspect of social life? And
Yes.
I'm just kind of like curious about this.
Yeah. We may have contradicting ideas, but in my opinion, yes.
Yeah. I say that a lot of people will go to social life as being popular on Instagram, hanging out with the popular kids, hanging out on the football team. And that's not really the way that we should go about it because that doesn't really add any value to you as a person or the balance between your social life and your school life, right? Sure, you have a social life, but you're just doing those things to have a social life. What a real social life should be that we can much easier balance with and grow from because I believe we must be growing from our social life, otherwise it's not anything to be worth for at all. Is we must have high quality relationships, right? So a lot of like I used to be kind of like throughout middle school, I didn't really have any friends. I was like the popular kid, but I would go home and not be able to talk to anyone. I would have like one guy. And even he barely knew who I was, and he was like my best friend. So that's just like what you can say about me is I was popular, but I didn't even have a real social life, right? I was social, but I didn't have a social life. I didn't have any relationships. So if you are trying to balance school life with a social life, you must have these high quality relationships that grow you. But a lot of guys don't know what high quality relationships are or how to get them in high school. And Joowan, do you have any advice for that?
Well, when I think about high quality relationships, I have to ask myself, is this going to be a meaningful time with them? Are they going to be meaningful? Is there something that I could get? Is there something that I could give? Is there something that we could share? Right. But like talking about the social events or some social time with them, how I think of it as is if I didn't hear about the social event, maybe with the meaningful people, the meaningful friends, or maybe it's with the popular kids. And this is how you determine if it's meaningful or not. If I never heard that there was a meeting or event or that time they hang out, after a couple days, would I feel left out? Would I say to myself, dang, I wish I have gone there. Dang, I missed some part of my life. Typically, if I say no, then most likely it's not too meaningful and it's not something too valuable to waste because we have to be prioritized on other parts of our life, right? Social life is not the center. But in terms of social life, I feel like you have to find some type of balance. So, Ken, what type of balance would be a good balance for you? In terms of the amount of times you can have a hangout or amount of times you could meet your meaningful friends, what would you say in terms of your social life?
Yeah. So I think today was the first time that I've hung out with someone in real life in like the past year. And that's because Benit just got back from Canada. And you know Benit Joowan, but he stayed over at our house to hang out with me and PJ. And that was probably the first time I've hung out with someone other than going to the sauna or the gym with them in like 2 years. And I'm gonna be honest, I've had the best relationships in the past 2 years or like grown because I spend less time with them. And you'll see what I mean here. Let's say that you are trying to multitask coding and Rocket League, right? It's gonna be quite hard to multitask coding and Rocket League. And so when we think about like school and social life balance, we think like, oh well, I can do both at the same time. Wrong. The way that I balance it is I think of it like a multitasking thing. I think that okay, I have a task of increasing my social life and I also have the task of increasing my school life. If I were to try to do both at the same time by let's say I'm in class and I'm texting my friend while the teacher is talking, I'm sure I'm kind of maybe having a social life increase by texting my friends, sending them snaps during school, whatever, like, oh, let me send a funny picture of Jib as he's across the room. And like, shut up, bro. You know what I mean? Like, that's what a lot of guys do. And it's shallow, okay? You're multitasking and you're not getting good results in either. So then what happens is you have a shallow social life and you also have a shallow school life. If we want to deepen both of these while maintaining a balance, we must do one at a time. So Alex Hormozy, who's this billionaire, millionaire guy, he apparently has his life in seasons. I actually haven't looked up much into this, but he goes to the very extreme end on this. I remember there was a story where he wanted to start dating. And he was very much focused on his wealth for the past 2 or 3 years. And he got quite wealthy because he focused 100% of his time on becoming wealthy. He decided, now I want to focus 100% of my time on becoming a relationship guy. So what he did is he went on Tinder and he got like 17 swipe rights and he booked out his entire week, like hour by hour for different dates and said, these are all the choices I'm going to have and these will be my people. And so for every single hour for the next week, one random girl was talking to him, and he was going relationship mode. No work, no social life, just relationships. And I'm pretty sure that's how he found his wife. And now they're dating for like 15 years. So the thing here is we can go deep and maintain a balance if we just do them at the same time. Because I can bet that if he spent, let's say, 10 years on his business and then 10 years on his relationship, and then he intermingled those, he probably wouldn't get the same amount of result as if he just spent 10 years alone on his business, 10 years on his relationship alone. So the way that I think about it is I say, when I am doing my schoolwork, I am 100% doing my schoolwork. And then I'm done with my schoolwork fast because I don't even think about schools. I don't even think about social life. I am in school mode. And then now I have time to do social things. So now I'm in social mode. And what happens there is we still maintain the exact amount of time that we've put into our school lives and our social life. But we've separated them so that we can completely focus on them and it becomes infinitely higher quality. So the way that I do that is just think about it like a multitask.
Hearing that, Cam, would you consider going to the gym and going to the sauna your social life?
Yeah, that's my social life, bro. I'm not even joking.
Yo, all this guy has is gym and sauna, and that is his social life. Yes, that's what we should be living up to, right? And I could agree with you. I could agree with you. After a hard work or a hard day of school, going to the gym, after work is 100% completed, feels the best thing ever, right?
Yeah.
I tell my friends right after I get back from school, I eat and I straight get into my work, and they're like surprised. They're like, I go to the gym first, then I finish my work at 12 p.m. at night, and I'm like, bro, dog. It they don't know how good it feels to get into leisure or to go into the gym after you finish 100%. Like you said, separating your tasks. Once you experience that,
Yeah.
you're gonna be addicted to it.
Yeah, dude, it's just like once you start, you can't stop. Do you have a social life, Joowan? Like besides mine?
I feel like
Besides the like mine, like
I have
the
more of
gym.
a social life than Cam. Yeah, this guy's a machine. Well, definitely my gym and sauna is my social life too because well, I love talking with people and interacting. Even in the gym, that's when I focus. Not just
Hmm.
not just the reps, but meeting other people. Like I literally met Cam at a YMCA, and that's how this
Yeah.
connection formed. But yes,
Yeah, we were literally in the sauna.
yeah, literally. I try to
See, and
limit
that's why.
my I try to limit
Oh,
my
yes. Okay, my
social
bad.
hangouts. I try to limit my social hangouts 1 to 2 times a week. They're literally just meaningful time with close friends. I literally don't have much friends. I would say I would count 5 people at school, my friends, and
Hmm.
obviously my family is my family, and some other friends outside of school, right? But I don't have much, and having this tight, small circle is in the long term lasts more and more meaningful. So I try to
Yeah,
limit it to 1 to 2 times a week, and only going to the events, only going to the hangouts that are going to be meaningful for me.
I feel you. I feel you. Yeah, I
Right.
also have the same thing, and all the successful people I know that are actually
Mhm.
like productive, they'll have
Mhm.
the same thing. We all just hang out around our little groups, and we all help each other grow, and we have deep lakes, not shallow lakes, like deep, deep, narrow, like a small deep lake, rather than a big shallow lake.
Right. So we've been talking about everything we could cover on school life, on productivity, on focus. We talked about some general tips and rules, but what would you say the biggest advice or the biggest productivity rule for you is?
I would say I already kind of went over it, and I guess I kind of pre-fired the gun. But the
Yeah.
fact that you think to yourself that you're an all A student, and what this will do for you is it will give you everything that we've just went over. If you identify yourself as not even a student, but just as like someone who goes to school, you probably haven't even watched this far of the podcast, right? You don't even put the effort into watching this. But the fact that maybe you've watched this right now, or you're listening to this conversation, or me and Joowan, you already are identifying as an all A student. And just the simple fact there, you will think to yourself, what would an all A student do? Your mindset will start to change. You will start to rewire your brain into becoming an all A student. And this is what happened to me. And I can probably bet that that happened to Joowan in seventh grade when he used to not be productive. You literally rewire your brain into a new person. It's this new identity that you create. And so after you've created this new identity, you start to act like him. It's literally like a multiple personality disorder, except you don't have multiple personalities. You just become the new personality. That's why I have in this back of my wall right here, it says, I am an all A student. It's because I was making a course. And the very first step is you need to think to yourself that you are an all A student. And the simple fact is, if you are an all A student, you're probably going to apply everything in this podcast. You're probably going to do everything that we just said. You're probably going to take a productivity course, quick plug, or you're going to start watching our YouTube videos and doing all of that. Juan, is there anything that you think to yourself that when you think of becoming an all A student or just productive, what is the absolute most necessary factor that you need?
Honestly, same with you. I already fired the gun already. It was the first thing I talked about. Ritualize. I think if you literally ritualize everything you do, you will reap benefits immediately. Like ritual is different than than a loose than a loosely followed routine. Ritual is literally like your religion that you follow every single day, every day at the same time, same location, similar settings, with the same mindset that I'm gonna crush this. And I'm willing to bet that that's in one of the concept in Hamza's video of flow state, somewhat related to ritualizing and making it a routine of getting into the flow states. Because your mind is different from where you do, like compared to a library or in a distracted room. Your mind is different. Entering the flow state requires some parts of things, including that. Our mind is complex, I think. Like, I read a study that um, sleeping in an environment that you're not used to, maybe in like a cabin, it's harder for you to fall asleep
Hmm.
because it's a different environment. So that could be similar
Dang.
to focus in a different environment that you're not used to, maybe in a noisy, distracted hallway in schools. It's going to be harder for you to focus. So ritualizing your work, I believe, by far the most important.
I think that if you apply those two things that we just said,
Right,
you'll have no problem with becoming an all A student. But if you want to go above and beyond and be a productivity god, then you can apply everything we just said. You'll probably become top 0.0001%.
right.
But yeah,
Yeah,
and that's all that I can say, man. That's all that I can say. What about you?
that was a pretty long podcast. I mean, thanks for tuning in. But let me just summarize for you real quick of the key takeaways, right? First, we talk about ritualizing your work. You have to first decide where and how long you study for. And second, you got to set rules for your work, your deep work. And you got to supplement your work, organizing your desk, making your bed, leaving your home to go to the library. And fourth, you have to leverage your work, use it to your advantage. And the second takeaway we talked about was focus, productivity. I mentioned about the 80-20 rule and the Parkinson's law, and also the productivity formula. And Cam mentioned about media fasting, getting into cold showers, and getting into the flow state. We highly recommend you that Hamza video that he made about the flow states. It's about an hour and a half, a good return on investment. And third takeaway we talked about was the balancing with social life, school life. I said that it has to be truly worthwhile for it to be meaningful. And Cam, like he said, has only social life a couple of times or once, which is literally today.
It doesn't have a social life.
Right. And we ended off with our biggest productivity rule, right? You said about identity, as spiritualizing your work. And that is the key points that you need to take off from this.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to
Yeah.
say, Cam?
I want to plug my course because I just spent like 20 hours on it. If you want everything that we just said in a simple, systemized format that will get you average student to all A's, then it's free for optimized members, for the club at our school, but it's probably gonna cost money because it's actually like insane. So, yeah, it'll probably be in the description or something. Honestly,
Gotcha.
I love that so much, bro.
If you're a student or any type of person and you're looking for any advice on focus, productivity, especially regarding around school and work, be on the lookout because I'm gonna be posting a video on focus. I could
Yeah,
be literally charging you this, but I want to just be sharing what I do and what I follow for me to gain such high levels of focus.
yeah,
Thanks for
yeah.
tuning in and see you on the next podcast.
Peace. Be optimal.
Peace. Be optimal.
Peace.
Ugh. Neck flex. All right. How about it?
Neck flex. Neck flex for the optimizers out